I'm going to preface this by saying that everything I'm about to say about certain people is not to be taken as a call to arms against them or a statement that they're bad in any meaningful way. I just needed examples, man. Hello everyone, this is David here, bringing you your dose of daily bread. So, on this channel we mostly talk about Vocaloid. We talk about the themes of the works and how they speak to the listener. But approaching music in that way is inherently limiting. I've said it before, but one of the core appeals of Vocaloid as a medium of entertainment is, in fact, the musicality of it all. If all we wanted from Vocaloid is a theme, we'd just go read a book or a poem or something. So today we're going to turn our attention to a different side of the medium and address the musicality of it all. That's a bit broad on its own, though. So to narrow it down, we're specifically going to be looking at vocals, and what exactly it is that makes a good vocal performance. Before we get too far into things here, I'm going to give a second preface, and say that while I am a musician, I am not a vocalist. That said, I've taken an entire class devoted to musical critique and education, have played music for a decade, and also just have ears. So take from that what you will. Okay, let's start. When you're looking at a vocal performance, you can break down your analysis into two broader categories. This isn't the only way to look at these things, but it's a useful way to do so. Those being technicality and style. Technicality is the easiest thing to understand to the layman. It refers to things like basic intonation, that is, are you singing the right notes without having your pitch waver? When looking at Vocaloid, this is usually something that's kind of a given since the program is structured around piano keys. But even then, depending on the phoneme you use to make your words, particularly in non-Japanese Vocaloid, the pitch can and does waver. Obviously, intonation is something that you can more readily notice in performances by actual people though. Under the branch of technicality, I'd also include things like the timing of your voice and breath support. Are you singing in time with the instrumental, or do you rush or drag? Furthermore, even if you are in tune, is the quality of your tone solid and supported with sufficient air, or do you die out as you hold a note? These are all things that are binary. You either are or are not doing them correctly, and as such, they're the easiest things to notice. There are other matters of technicality, of course, but those are the large factors to consider. Style, on the other hand, is where music really comes to life as art. Style encompasses so many different things that it's hard to define it in simple terms. This is where things like dictation, vowel placement, and the like come into play. Is the line you're singing legato, or is it marked? Where are you taking your breaths? Are your phonemes pointed or rounded? Where's your vocal placement? Does all this sound like gibberish to you? It well may, but that's because this is where the challenge and art of singing really comes into the picture. I think the best way to explain these things is through example. Take the song Jitterdoll. You could sing it perfectly in tune and in time, but the notes aren't what make Jitterdoll Jitterdoll. It's the mark style of the chorus and verses contrasted with the legato refrain. While these terms still might not make perfect sense to you, I'm sure I could put it in a way that does. Jitterdoll is characterized by its intensity. You can't just sing the notes right, you need that level of power and strength. That's where all this stuff comes in. Many people could, for example, hit the high notes in Jitterdoll by using a breathy head voice or flipping into falsetto if you're a guy. But the problem there is that it creates a very wispy, breathy sound, which is completely antithetical to the cut and dry, all-tone, belty chorus of the song. You'd be hitting the notes, but you wouldn't really be capturing the spirit of Jitterdoll. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you could really dig into, say, Hirari Hirari, having no breathiness at all in the voice and clipping the ends of the notes. If you did that, though, it would sound awful, even if it was perfectly in tune. Why? Because it's contrary to the style that the song is built around. Hirari Hirari is completely legato, a smooth connected line with little room for excessive breaths or breaks, all done in a breathy voice that's almost a whisper. This is also that in the chorus it can break from this style as the intensity builds. Think back to a bad vocal performance you've heard. Be that some bad Vocaloid cover, an amateur cover artist, or your high school choir or something. Chances are a lot of the problem roots back to a lack of adherence to the song's stylistic sensibilities. And I'm sure they were probably out of tune somewhere too. Okay, well, that was a nice summary. Now I'll teach you some common errors you can show off to all your friends and loved ones at the Christmas table this year. Error 1. Flying T's and S's. Now's about the time that I trigger the PTSD of anyone who's ever performed in a choir. Flying T's and S's are a common problem that can occur whenever you have multiple voices singing at once. This is super easy to encounter in a choir since there's so many different people, but it can just as easily occur in our sector of the world through self-harmonization. This is something that you probably won't encounter with actual Vocaloid given the nature of the software, but I digress. This is a problem that's caused when the last word of a line is a word that ends with a T or an S. The problem with these words is that T and S are not voiced consonants when used at the ends of words. By that I mean that if you were to sing the word cat, you would sing cat, not cats. The ah sound is what's actually voiced when you sustain the note, and the T is more of a rhythmic thing that comes after. Flying T's and S's is a term for when you sing a line ending in a word that itself ends in a T or an S, and those T's and S's don't line up with everyone singing them. The result is the listener hearing something like cat, as all the voices land on that T at different times. For example, take Octavia's cover of Idle in No Circus. Now, Octavia is literally the best cover artist on the planet, and I love her music to bits, do not misunderstand me here. However, there's a good example of flying T's in the very last word of her cover. The final words are sing out, and that out has some flying T's with the multiple layers of harmony that Octavia's doing. The result is it sounding like she's saying out.
Sing out!
Now, David, I hear you say, that is a very small detail that most people wouldn't even notice. Who cares? Well, you numpty, you may not think you notice things like that, but your brain does. These sorts of little things are what give a piece of music cohesion, what make it really stand out. Yeah, it's small, but it's things like this that contribute to making a vocal performance legendary. Now, pretty much everything else about this performance in particular absolutely rocks. See this video here where I praise it to high heaven. But the point remains. Error 2. Placement. Okay, welcome to the easiest way to kill a piece of music for me. The placement of the voice refers to how you're operating the vocal mechanism as you sing. It's things like how you're raising the soft palate, whether you're singing back in the throat or closer to the mask of the face. Different phonemes are more conducive to different placements, and these all affect the timbre of the voice. I think you'll get it once I give you some examples, but let me oversimplify it to try and get the point across. Imagine the inside of your throat from where your neck meets your shoulders up to the teeth in the nose. When you sing, you can change where you're having the sound resonate to different places along that continuum. The further back you go, the warmer and richer the sound tends to be, and the further you get into the mask of the face, that being the teeth, nose sort of deal, the brighter and more pointed the sound. That's a simplified version of it, but that's the general idea. Pop songs tend to be brighter and more forward, where a lot of grandeur and emotional stuff is darker and pulled back. The problem comes from when your placement is not really in line with the tone of the song. For example here, and I am again not trying to step on any toes, I like all of these people, but let's compare Juby's cover of I Was Human with Cyrie's. Juby in general is a very forward placement with a lot of the things that she does. For this reason, I think her best works tend to be more poppy things like Otsukimi Recital. I Was Human, however, is this agonizing crawl of a song that's smooth to the point of melting. Juby's placement in the song gives it a pointed quality due to the brightness it lends itself to. Cyrie's phonemes, on the other hand, are darker, and as such the expression of the line feels smooth and consistent. In Cyrie's cover, the vocals blend into the composition, letting the song wash over you, whereas with Juby's, the vocals jump out of the texture. This isn't an objective binary error. Rather, it's a stylistic element that comes down to building your vocal mechanism around the song you want to sing.
The moon above, so high in outer space. Tomorrow seems 100 lives away. With nights I took for granted all along, I couldn't see the future, not at all.
And, yeah, that's probably enough for now. I didn't mean for this to even be as long as it is. I've barely scratched the surface here in terms of picking apart everything that makes vocal performance an intricate art, but that's why this is a baby's guide. This is just a tool to help you all look at music in a different way, if ever so slightly. And if you can identify where music goes wrong, you'll find yourself equipped with the tools to identify what all goes into making music good as well. So yeah, go out and listen to music. I don't know. Go and read chapter 20 of your textbook for homework or something. I want a paper on my desk by Tuesday. Have a good Christmas, everyone. And hopefully you'll learn something. Later.